I'm excited too. Thank you so much, Peggy. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today. I'm Jessica Dugas, the creator of the Breakthrough Show Network, and it is my pleasure to introduce someone to you today who's not only an alum of my network, the Breakthrough Show Network, but someone I consider a friend. We are about to begin this expo with something truly epic. Our opening keynote comes from someone who embodies transformation, myth, meaning, and power in absolutely everything he does. He's a speaker, creator, and storyteller who helps people rise into their purpose with clarity and fire. Please join me in welcoming my friend, the unforgettable, the unstoppable Scott Mason. Scott, I would love to have you join us up here in that keynote spot up there that's scheduled just for you. Possibly so. I I see him down there. He's fighting the fight. Yeah, he's I've known him for several years, and it's really been amazing for me to as the producer of the network to get to see like some of the behind the scenes things of all of the guests that come on the network. So to know his story and to not just have had him, like I said, on the network, but to become a friend of his, it's really been a pleasure to get to see all of those inner workings of what he does and really the passion that he puts behind all of his speeches, all of the work that he does. And so I'm really excited to have him here with us today. I know he's working out some technical things back there. I see him, but I'm excited. But when he shifted into this space of using Greek mythology to use in his coaching and in his speeches, I saw something light up within him that I had never seen before. And so I'm really excited that he's going to share that with all of us today. And so it's going to be good once we get the tech stuff worked out. Yeah, that's what it Absolutely. And you know what's exciting too is like I think there were several of us on the planning committee that were inspired by Scott's message. And so you may, as you're going to certain booths today, see a little bit of a theme that tie into some mythology, which is super fun. And
Peggy,
I knew that good Scott because
he can't get up
he's
to the stage. Can you check his
now and
permissions?
inspires us to be our creative self. And so I'm excited. Scott, if you want to scoot up one more chair up to that keynote spot, and we will have you ready to go. And I'm excited to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Can you see and hear me?
Yes.
All righty. Thank you for your patience. It took me a little while to figure it out, but overcoming obstacles is what we as creative entrepreneurs all have to do. And at the end of the day, that's what the conversation today is all about. Thank you, Jessica, for your patience. Thank you all for having me here. I am so stoked to begin us on a journey that is truly epic. A 20-minute reset for you to reclaim your kingdom, your business, and your life starting right now for 2026. Let me just also, all righty. So let me just do a quick check in. Because we're running a little bit late, I'm only going to have a couple seconds, but I would love to know quickly in the chat what some of you are looking to build for your business in 2026 and whether you see any challenges in making that happen. So just put a couple of language igniters I see from Oli. Am I talking? You don't hear anything. Expansion. Is Podcasters Directory the only people that I can sort of, okay. Really want to get the energy equation to more people. Refresh. I'm fine, Scott. Good to know. We hear you. Great. Membership increased. Successful City. This is some amazing stuff. Thank you all. And I think we all know that anytime that we try and put together something ambitious or new for our businesses, it can create a whole bunch of challenges. And the more creative and the more trying to create is, the more difficult those challenges become. This presentation today in particular, I can relate to every single person who is a part of those of you in the audience. I am a creative entrepreneur, and it is both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because we're the ones who are always breaking boundaries, be doing things our own way. But the challenge is that our way, because it's breaking boundaries, is almost always more difficult. We're the ones that are stepping outside of the norm. Of the fear emerging that what we're doing isn't necessarily making sense to anyone but us, or that the whole world won't get it, or that we'll put all of this effort and our voices won't be heard or understood. And any one of you who has ever felt that way about any of your projects, I can completely relate. I have struggled with those things as long as I have been in the creative entrepreneurial space. But everything changed once I understood that, as Jessica mentioned earlier, Greek myths, which I've loved ever since I was a little boy, actually contained the answers to all of the challenges I had, bringing my voice out there, making sure that the empire that I was seeking to build became possible, and that I developed as a person and entrepreneur all along. In particular, one Greek myth, the story of Odysseus, provides a 4-step process about that explains exactly how we can overcome the barriers that keep us from being able to fully express with confidence, joy, and conviction what we are about, what our business is to become, so that our visions can actually happen, so that we can reflect, more effectively collaborate, and make 2026 the year that each of us utterly and completely reclaims our kingdom. What are these 4 steps? The first is being able to name and get rid of the toxic myths that are keeping us stuck inside, and from being able to show the world who we are and what we're doing without any doubt whatsoever. with the power of Zeus holding a thunderbolt. The second step is rewriting your mythical framework. Number 3 is igniting your charisma. And number 4 is building a blueprint for action. Before we get into exploring these 4 chapters of our epic, let's talk a little bit about who Odysseus was. And then we're going to get into exactly how his story walks you through the process that I just showed you. Odysseus was the king of the great ancient Greek city-state of Ithaca. And like all kings at the time, he wanted nothing more than for his kingdom to be prosperous and to grow. But then, in faraway Troy, a war broke out. And at first, Odysseus saw this as an opportunity to expand and create a new professional goal, to become a hero. But a prophet told him that if he went and fought in the Trojan War, his journey home would be long, arduous, and painful. That flipped Odysseus out, and it kept him from moving forward for a long time. In fact, he thought it might keep him from fighting in the war forever. In other words, Odysseus's toxic internal narratives by outside forces were the toxic myths within his myths that kept him from being able to achieve his professional objective of becoming a hero. What is a toxic myth? It's my belief that Greek myths are the most profound and powerful personal and professional development tools ever created anywhere. After a lifetime of reading, studying, and absolutely loving these stories, I realized that there are 5 general categories of myths that correspond to belief systems that keep creative professionals just like me and perhaps like you from being able to fully step into our professional direction, and that play in the background, keeping us stuck. In other words, the 5 toxic myths keep you from reclaiming your are the 5 toxic myths. Number 1, the tragic origin myth, which you live out when you believe that the circumstances of your birth or your early life ultimately determine the trajectory of your future. Number 2, the doomsday myth, when you believe that any risky or difficult decision will automatically lead to a personal or professional cataclysm, that making the decision will cause you to literally get eaten up like that man in the corner. Number 3, the social myth. You are experiencing the social myth when you make decisions based on the expectations of other people. For instance, Odysseus listening to the words of that prophet like the prophet knew anything at all. If you are making your decisions based on social expectations or fears of what they might be, you are living out the social myth. Number 4, the ritual myth. You're living out the ritual myth when you engage in the same types of behaviors over and over and over, as well as the same sorts of thought patterns over and over, even though they no longer serve you, as if they were rituals that you feel you have to perform. And number 5, the underworld myth. You are living in the underworld myth when you exist with regards to your future and your business plans in a state of perpetual spiritual, mental, or emotional hopelessness, which causes you to set yourself into a place of apathy or procrastination, not moving forward. Only by naming the toxic myths that he was holding inside was Odysseus able to recognize that they were nothing more than stories and let them go. And that's what enabled him ultimately to move and go to Troy to fight in the war. And it's a doggone good thing that he did, because Odysseus's actions during the war single-handedly enabled the Greeks to win and made him a hero whose legend persists today. But it's not enough to simply get rid of the existing narratives that you had that are toxic. You need to replace them with something. And that leads to stage 2, which is writing a new mythological framework, one that's guiding your future. Odysseus obviously had gotten rid of his toxic myths, or he wouldn't have been able to go and fight in the war. But he didn't replace them with anything. And so his North Star began to float away. He felt a little bit directionless. The gods were angry. They sank his ship and they sent him away to a remote island where he was locked away in a cave, all alone, guarded by a cruel goddess for 7 years, where he had nothing to do but think about his life and where he had gone wrong. And after sitting in that dark cave for 7 years, all alone, one day he suddenly remembered. He remembered that Ithaca, the city that he ruled, was full of people who needed a leader with the strength and the vision that he had learned during the war and on his journey home. He remembered that he had a wife who loved him and didn't know if he was alive or dead. He remembered that he had a son who didn't even know him. When he remembered those things, the vision for what he needed to do, how and why he needed to return home, came back. And then a light filled the entire cave. It was the herald of the gods, letting Odysseus know that at long last he was free to go home. And once you connect your vision, your purpose with your values, once you claim who and what you are inside and why you're doing what you do, your vision for the future will light your cave and enable you to leave and find your way home. Of course, none of us can build our vision unless we have the people and resources to support us. And that is why charisma matters, because charisma is the way that you get the people and resources galvanized to get behind you and make your vision come to life. And so stage 3 is igniting that charisma so that you can move forward with a whole army of people supporting what you do. When Odysseus got home, he was shocked to discover that everyone had forgotten he even existed. And as a matter of fact, there was a contest the next morning that 100 suitors had come to his palace to engage in. And whoever won this contest would be able to marry his wife. Can you believe this? And this contest was crazy. You had to take an arrow and shoot it through 12 axe heads, just like the one you see in the slide. And then once it had cleared all 12 of those axe heads, it had to hit a bullseye on the other end. All 100 of the suitors had tried and failed. But Odysseus, knowing clearly what his vision was, stood with confidence, even though no one knew him, and said, I can do this, and I'm gonna do it now. Everyone in the room whipped around. Their eyes were totally focused on him and what he was doing, because he had ignited his charisma. He strolled up to the mat in front of the axe heads where the bow and arrow stood. Everyone was silent. His inner electricity set the whole room on fire. Now it was time for him to take the last step, to create an actionable plan to take his vision from where he was then into the future. And that's your last step too. Making vision become reality through a blueprint of action steps. Odysseus stood on the mat in front of the axe heads for a long moment. In his mind, he put together a detailed plan for how to deal with the situation based on everything that he had learned during the war and during his arduous journey home. Once his plan had been outlined in detail in his head, he took a deep breath. He grabbed a bow. He took an arrow. He lifted up the bow. notched the arrow, pulled back the string, and let the arrow fly. The Odyssey was about to end. The entire room gasped as one by one the arrows cleared each of the axe heads, all 12 of them, and then slammed right into the center of the bullseye. Now it was time for Odysseus to execute his plan. And instantly, step by step, he addressed each of those suitors, all 100 of them, and within moments, every single one of his competitors were dead on the ground, turned to dust, toxic myths gone, opportunities taken, futures created. And with his plan executed, Odysseus, his skin on fire, turned around and jumped on a platform nearby. He stood loud and tall over the entire hall and said, "I am Odysseus, the conqueror of Troy, the master of the seas, the lord of Ithaca. I reclaim my home. I reclaim my family. I reclaim my kingdom. I reclaim my future." And that's exactly what will happen with you. Once you name the toxic myths that are holding you back and throw them away, then write a new framework based on a purpose and values based statement of your vision. Ignite your charisma to get people behind you, then build and execute a plan. 2026 will be the year that every one of those goals happens. It's been a great opportunity to speak in front of you, and I hope that you have pulled something powerful from Odysseus's story. I'd love to stay connected with you. My QR code is there. And before closing out, because I know time is tight, I want to just have a final set of words, which is what I say to everyone that I care about, and that includes each of you, which is that I want your future to be epic. Jessica Pega? Ah, I am indeed. Oh, I certainly have. Blown away. Blown away. Work worthy of Mount Olympus. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sure. Question. What's your favorite toxic myth to confront?
It's interesting. The ritual one, which is just to refresh everyone's recollection, a situation in which you engage in behaviors over and over and over ritualistically, even though they no longer serve you. That's the one that, in a way, is my favorite because it's the easiest to address. Sometimes people have just behaved in certain ways. They've conducted themselves as leaders within their own business, or they've operated certain ways, particularly if they're solopreneurs. And it seemed like it's worked. But after a while, as you and your business grow, or even if you, especially if you're not growing, being able to look honestly at yourself and say, I am just behaving in a way that I've ritualized, that's not necessarily reflecting an actual aggressive, growth oriented stance, is something that people, once they understand that, can quickly open their minds into being able to periodically make these shifts and hear how some of these shifts might occur. One piece of advice that I give, that I actually abide by, and I give my clients, is to literally, in your calendar, mark every 2.5 years. Put a date in your calendar, perhaps 2.5 years from December 9th, and have that day where you set aside and literally look at every single operating practice, every single belief system, every element of your vision that's guiding you, and try to find ways that you might shift. Don't wait for it to happen organically. Don't wait for black swan events to occur or for your business to begin to slow down. Be on top of it. There's been some data out there that if your revenue begins to go down by even 5%, it's already too late for you to make a shift in your business tactic, strategy, or vision without further revenue decline. So if you're thinking that the ritual myth is always something that you're in danger of, literally calendar radical time to examine radical change.
Thank you, Scott. I had another question for you. Is there a particular character within Greek mythology, a god or a goddess that you resonate the most with?
You know the answer to that, Jessica.
Well, everybody needs to hear it though.
But no one else does. And that's interesting. One of the things that I do with all of my clients is to begin to have them, they don't need to become experts in Greek mythology or anything like that. This is a program that is accessible for anyone. But I ask them to begin to think about what are the values, purpose that they have, and the characteristics and the dispositions that they bring into the room, that they really want to amplify, that they feel like if they were fully and completely connected with, particularly if they're creatives like the folks in this room, where they would shine and literally live on Mount Olympus. And then we work together to figure out some sort of mythological avatar that they use to guide them when they make decisions or when they think about how they might present in the world going forward, particularly when we start to work on bringing out their charisma. Mine is Helios, god of the sun. Helios not only has a huge personality, you can't miss him if he's out. You kind of can't miss the sun, right? But he also exists to enlighten. And in ancient Greek myths, if people were blind as to their possibilities or the truth about who and what they were inside, and they went to Helios, he would put his hands on their eyes and they could see again. And that's what I seek to do with every single person who I interact with. Nico says Odysseus is definitely mine. And keep shifting as needed. Amplify your arrows and shine. I love it. Ah, Oli knows who Helios is. Thank you. And bring the light, Oli says. Exactly. Any other questions or thoughts? Excellent. Excellent.